Let's see here. All right, that's about the best I can do. So today we are going to prime this COOSA panel, which is the floor of the center console, which we call a center console, but is actually going to be a pilot house, and we're also going to prime this real quick. But I got to mix some resin. Let's get some resin mixing. I'm over here. I'm going to shake up my VINYLESTER. Set for a few days. I got to get it agitated. Usually it'll say right on the label. Mix, agitate, before using. It definitely says it on the drum. I told you my story. I am a boat builder, and we are building a boat. Right now we're on the shop floor, though. And what we're going to do is we're going to prime this. What you see there is going to be a little stringer underneath this panel. And we're going to prime that and the panel underneath it. Got an old cup here, zeroed out. This is a 16-ounce cup. What is that? Half a pint? That's a pint. 16-ounce cup is 1 pint, half a quart. We got this scale zeroed out. We're going to mix 2 batches of this pretty quick. So what I'm going to show, we're going to prime the COOSA. Then, as it starts to gel, we're going to hit it with 2 coats, actually, of primer, 2 stages. And this stuff is going to be pretty quick. I accelerate pretty quick. I go about 2 to 2.5%, and I'll explain why as we get going along here. Not going to try and squeeze all that in. There's our VINYLESTER, same as what we use laminating in the boat. And we end up here with 9 ounces. Get a little stirring stick here. I'm going to squeeze off some MEK from our MEK dispenser. We're going to go pretty hot. We're going to go about like right there. We need this to move quickly. That is spicy. So, the last time I did a panel, what was the last panel I did of this size? I'm trying to think, I just primed something. What was it? Oh my goodness, I don't remember. Was it the ice hold floor, the last thing? Maybe it was the ice hold floor. For some reason I'm thinking I just built something else that was a square, more of a square shape. Anyway, this is going to consume probably 2 mixes like this. And what I try and do is fill all the porosity, and I explain this over and over again. But if you're new to the channel, and by all means, welcome to the channel. Let me welcome you. The reason I do this is because the foam will absorb some of the resin. And if I try and laminate to that right now, while it's starting to cure, the foam will soak some of the resin into it and actually peel it, take it from the fiberglass. So assuming I put some fiberglass on here and I hadn't primed it, as it starts to set up, that resin will absorb into the foam. And this is going to get a little bit messy. We're going to set this aside after we get a little primer on it. It's going to get a little bit messy. This is just going to set aside. This is the stringer that's going to go underneath the floor. So again, we do this because you'll see when we prime this how much resin this consumes. And assuming that I was glassing right on this and I didn't account for how much resin this is going to soak up, and I did a typical laminate, some of that resin would absorb into the foam, into the COOSA, whatever foam you're using, almost all of it, especially plywood. Plywood's really, really thirsty. I don't work with plywood. I just think it's an inferior product. Yes, COOSA costs more than plywood, but it lasts for a lifetime. There's no question about it. So I work with COOSA. That's how I build my stuff. Build boats to last a lifetime. No maintenance. Anyway, you do have to prime it. I learned this a long time ago, and done it ever since. I think I was priming something, and I was just absolutely amazed how much it consumed And then I started thinking about it. Man, actually, I may have experienced like what I saw was like a dry laminate, and I couldn't quite wrap my brain around it. I'm like, man, I know I put enough resin on this, and I know I put enough resin on this. Why is it dry? I don't remember that exact experience, but it's kind of coming back to me a little bit. I must have experienced that. I had to do something about it. Anyway, we're going to prime this little stringer here and get it out of the way. I'm going to set this aside. I got a horse over here. May have to hit that a little bit more, but you get the idea. Oh, you know what I don't have? I don't have my acetone bucket out. So we got a little messy there, but that's okay. So let me show you. We got to get moving. Set this aside over here. Thanks for joining me, guys. Again, my name is Damon. I'm building a boat. This is the panel that's going to be inside the center console. And this is the floor for the center console, which is going to be a pilot house. But this is the floor. It's 3/4 inch, 15-pound density COOSA. I use mostly 15-pound density unless I'm doing stringers or transom. Then I'll bump up to 24, 26. 26-pound density for the transom. For stringers, I like to do like 20-pound. But anyway, this is 15-pound. And it actually makes a fairly light panel and a very stiff panel, but it's considerably, it's lighter than plywood. So that's another thing too. Now, using COOSA compared to something like the VINYLESTER or something like that, COOSA is heavier, more dense, but it makes a stiffer panel. In my opinion, and the way I do it, it doesn't require as much fiberglass on the skin. When I say the skin, there's fiberglass on top and bottom, and each side is called a skin. Creates an I-beam as far as the laminate, and that's what gives the panel strength. It's the skins on each side that give it the strength. COOSA by itself is not that strong. That's a whole nother story. Matter of fact, let me just dive in it real quick. So way back, I worked on the Bertram 31 when before we did that restoration about 8 years ago or 9 years ago, when the owner first acquired that Bertram 31. It had come up from Palm Beach, and somebody had put COOSA decks in it, and I didn't know it was painted, non-skid, and everything like that. Those dudes, whoever did that deck, they didn't put a stitch of fiberglass on it. They literally glued the COOSA in, painted over it, and we were putting some screws in or doing some installation, and that COOSA didn't have any fiberglass on it, and I was shocked how well it actually held up, considering there was no fiberglass on it. That's not how you're supposed to do it. I've never heard of that or never seen that. That was the first time I ever saw that. You don't just stick it in a boat and paint it, resin coat it and paint it, but so they did, which I was shocked. But again, I was kind of impressed with how well it had held up. So anyway, this is a first coat. This should gel in a few minutes. It was a pretty spicy batch there. Oh man, it's swinging resin. So we're priming this. We're going to put some fiberglass on it here in a minute. The glass we're going to put on today will be some 3/4 ounce, which I always do first, and then a 1208, which is a nice light layup, and then it'll be another 3/4 ounce. Let's see how nice this goes. I might mix just a teeny tiny bit more. There's some pretty good porosity here. Maybe not. Might not be necessary. That's pretty slick. There's definitely some roller fuzz in here from this roller. I do blow these rollers out. It's all fine. It's fine. Get glass on it, and it'll become part of the laminate. Little polyester fibers in there. So interesting. I use a material called, you want to talk about polyester. You know, polyester resin is polyester. VINYLESTER is a blend of polyester and epoxy. VINYLESTER is a modified epoxy. Polyester and VINYLESTER, or polyester and epoxy married together. That said, it is very compatible with polyester. There's a fabric that I prefer, I really like to use, It's very, very dense. It is called, well, the trade name has changed. I used to call it magic material. The trade name has, it's changed hands. Different manufacturers make it. But it used to be called Triviera. And it's spun polyester. This magic material is used in road construction for drainage. But it's also used in composites. Some boat companies still use it around the rub rail. They'll put like a 2-inch strip of this material around the rub rail. Oh, boy. Yep, that happened. Let's see how big of a mess that is. That really happened. Let's pause. My stringer fell on the floor. That really did happen. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to set this little, let's throw a rag down here. Do a couple things. I'm going to throw this paper down here so this resin doesn't just sit there and drip on it. I'll leave my roller hung right there. Let's get some of that dirt off of this stringer that just fell on the ground. So tomorrow this will be primed, this stringer. I'll glue it in some bonding putty, and it's going to go in first. And I've also got to build a little drain. I guess, I don't know if I showed this. You know what? I need to show it. I got up pictures and photos of how I did it for the ice hold. Maybe I'll do a live. Maybe I'll just do like a short or something, show you guys how I did the drain. This is all part of the common drain system, which is really, really crazy what we're doing on the common drain. Every compartment drains into a common drain, which is a drain that runs down the keel of the boat. And it directs all the water, any puddles, any compartments, they all go to one place. All the drains are integral into the boat. There's no plumbing, no hoses, no fittings. And it's called the common drain, is what I call it. I'm going to grab some new gloves. But anyway, we'll get to that. Hands are soaking wet. Hard to put gloves on with wet hands. How's everybody doing? Who do we got today? Let's see. Hell yeah. School's in session. Yes, sir. We're out on the shop floor. Welcome to the mess. So, by the way, my shop floor consists of the heaviest visqueen you can buy. That's laid down first. And then tar paper. Heavy tar paper on the floor. And that's the floor. So resin can literally just drip, drip, drip. Eventually, when it gets too messy, I still try to keep it clean. But eventually, all this just gets wrapped up, thrown into the dumpster, and it doesn't make too big of a mess. We're about due for a refresh. But I don't have that much resin on the floor, so it's not too messy right now. But that's the shop floor. So we're primed. We are now primed. I don't have my talc out here. It might be worth going and getting it. Look how hard it is to put a glove on. Once your hand gets, you can't. It's so challenging. These are not powdered. Okay. So we're going to fool this for a little bit. And what I may have to do is squeeze the resin out of this roller if it's still holding a pile of resin, so that it doesn't kick off on me. We're going to use this one roller through the whole process. So that's the goal. And you know, COOSA is, you know, it's sometimes you get a panel that has more porosity than others, and in different places. This one's not bad. I've actually had some panels that I got that were transom, 1.5 inch, and they were so bad that I said, I'm not using this. I sent them back, and I was a little bummed, but man, you know, they replaced them. I'm sure someone else purchased it and found its way into another transom, but not in my transom. So anyway, yeah, it's porous. It's a high density foam. I've never been to the factory. I'd like to go see how they do it. If I had to guess, I'd assume they pour large blocks at a time, inject the foam, cast it into probably a large aluminum block, and then cut it. That'd be my guess, but I don't know for a fact. And just to kick off, we need that to gel. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to squeeze the resin out of this, maybe. I need that to set up quick. I didn't realize, I mean, I figured I'd go live and show you the process, but now we gotta sit and wait. We'll give it a few minutes. Let's see, who's here? Over here, prepping for tropical storm Bertha. Hey, is it heading over there? I was watching it. We got a nice breeze for a couple days. The air out of the wind just, it's almost like that storm went by, but it actually formed to the northwest of us. And so we didn't get any of the bad effects from it. But boy, we got a nice breeze for a couple days. I think it's kind of tapering off. But yeah, it's great by us. We didn't get none of that. I don't mind going for a whole year without any storm prep and all that. But let's see here. Wind event, no surge. Oh yeah, you guys get storm surge. Gulf storm surge, yeah. Yeah, I've never experienced that storm surge stuff. Now, we've had a couple of direct hits in this area, but I actually wasn't around. I had a condo on Fort Pierce Inlet, and it got wiped out. 2 storms back to back. I can never remember those names, but yeah, the roof came off and all that mess. That was no fun. It's part of the deal. You want to live in paradise. You gotta get ready for it, and I was fortunate I wasn't around when that happened. I was out of town working. But that was a mess. That's why we pay for all this insurance. That's why it's so expensive. Anyway, that's a whole nother topic. So we got it primed. It's pretty good. I don't like putting too much on top of it. I tend to overdo it, and it's got like a puddle sitting on top. But we're not going to do that this time. I tend to overdo it, over slick it. So we'll get that set. What I want to do is I want to see it like start to get a little bit sticky. Let me see what time, how long has it been since we actually mixed? 17 minutes. I did mix pretty quick there. Shouldn't be too much longer. Let me go get my materials. I'll show you what we're going to work with today. Let me show you. Be right back. I'm in the office now. Air conditioning office. Woo! That makes it hard to want to get back out there. Walk in here. Makes it hard to want to go back outside. My cutting table's in the office here. This shop has a real big office with a mezzanine on top. And I squished into this space. I put all my material in masking paper like this. And I'm going to just throw it right behind y'all. Gonna be right here. But I put it in masking paper. I call these like a sandwich. Like a big sandwich. This is the 3/4 ounce. We'll drop this on in a second. I think I went to get my scissors. Did I bring my scissors out here? Yep. I got my cutting scissors. This is going to overhang a little bit. I'll just go around and trim it off. It really doesn't, not necessary. We'll see how big it is. Tomorrow, after this sets up, I come in and I'll cut this with a 4-inch grinder and one of these wheels. And this thing will just buzz right through it. I'm not actually sure where I got this one. You can get diamond wheels at Home Depot or Lowe's. And some of them last for years and years. I'm not certain where this one came from. The thing is not to bend them. So you got it in your grinder and you use these right here instead of your normal backup pad. The thing is not to drop this thing. As soon as you bend it, you ruin it. And that's about the only thing that kills them. But boy, they cut through fiberglass like butter. So anyway, tomorrow I'll trim with that. Put that on my 4-inch grinder. You know, I did film me cutting that transducer. Oh, let me show you. I did cut this. This is the transducer housing that's going in the boat. I didn't show you all this live though. This is the transducer housing. That's going to go glassed into the bottom of the boat. This is a bezel that's going to cover that. Ferruno actually has a video installing one of these in a boat in a CV. This is a 3 kilowatt chirp transducer, hole for the wire and everything like that. This gets cut out and I make a bezel that sits in here like that. And then this gets trimmed off. This is excess. Whatever is hanging down there is excess. But Burrito does a video. They have a video. You can check it out of an installation. And I'm going to show them this when I do the installation on this boat, this 3 kilowatt transducer. I want them to have a look at how I do it. Now, I made this a long time ago for the Bertram. When I was talking about that Bertram that had the COOSA decks, that was the first time I built one of these, and we put a 3 kilowatt transducer in that Bertram, in the keel. And so I have the mold laying around here, and we're going to put, there's a newer version Bruno's been using, or Airmar, it's Airmar, uses the housing, and they just put different components inside of it, different elements inside, and they make different transducers for different applications. That's firming up pretty good. All right, that's gelled. Let's move along. I'm going to squeeze a little bit out of this so it doesn't kick on me, and I look like an idiot. I'm out here. I got my trash bucket out here, which is full of about 20 of these things, maybe 30 of these, and then old resin that's just excess resin. All goes into the trash bucket out here. I'm squeezing off the resin with my hand. Sometimes you could use like a 5-in-1, but these are a little small. 5-in-1s work good on like a regular, 9-inch roller or whatever. They don't work so great. Oh, you know what else we need? I just squeezed the resin out. We need rollers. Maybe we'll get that real quick too. Let me show you real quick. I want to show you everything. Let me get my 5-gallon bucket here. I'm going to show you right now. These are my tools. Oh, wrong one. I moved them around, rearranged. That's old ass tin. This is an old 5-gallon bucket that held resin. Came to me with resin in it. I'll show you real quick. This, can you see it here? This is my 5-gallon bucket. That's my hand wash bucket. Everything below there is nice and clean. Here, let me pull my hand wash bucket out and show you again. All right. Now down in there, that's all my tools that stay fairly clean. That's considered clean acetone. I've got the pieces of pipe that hold that bucket just floating, so it doesn't lay down in there and tip over and spill. I keep my rollers in there nice and clean. And of course this guy. We'll need that. So I got my hand wash bucket out. Okay. That is my acetone system. That's how I keep it clean. I will also show you how to recycle it. That's for another video. It's on my channel way back years ago. I did a video on how I manage my materials. Okay. Let's kick off another batch here. Now we're going to lay up this 1208. Thanks for hanging out. I know it's been a little, what are we at, 23 minutes? Let's see. What does it say? Yeah, we're building a boat. I'm on the shop floor today, though. I couldn't read it. I'm sorry. I'll have to just keep going here. All right, we'll zero out the scale. Here's my sand bucket I keep using over and over and over. We're going to go with about, I'm going to say 28 to 30 ounces of resin for this. We'll see what happens. Maybe 30, maybe 34. Let's see where we land. Got my resin. We're going to weigh it. That's 28. All right, 28 it is. We're going to go. Let's see. I'm going to kick this off quick. This is slice it up pretty quick. What you don't want to do, so we're glassing on one side of COOSA. Let me tell you a couple tips here. What could go wrong? Well, glassing on one side of any foam makes that panel a little bit unstable, and if the material that you're glassing, let's say we put like 1/4 of an inch of fiberglass on this one side, and we leave that overnight, we come back tomorrow, this panel would look like a Pringles chip. That 1/4 inch of fiberglass would shrink up, pull it up, and this it would be disformed. It would look like a Pringles chip because the material would shrink and nothing would be holding it in place. Now, when I do large panels or I build it on like a melamine mold, I'll typically weight down the corners just after they gel, just after they get firm enough. I'll put some weight on the corners or somehow clamp it down to keep that Pringles or potato chip type issue from happening, the shrinking and curling up. When we're doing something like a thin laminate, like this 3/4 ounce, 1208 3/4 ounce, it's not going to shrink a lot. It's not going to get hot. And so it hasn't yet. I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I haven't had a problem with it yet. So I'm not too concerned about it today. So what we're going to do, we're going to give this another smattering with some fresh resin. Technically, this roller should be reset now. I didn't squeeze all that old resin out. If I had some dry fiberglass, I could have put the dry fiberglass down, but I want to get this good and soaked. But if I was laminating like you see me do in the stringers, I would have dried this roller out really, really good. But we're going to go so fast here that it's not an issue. We don't have to worry about gelling. We don't have to worry about this gelling off. This is not going to be a 45-minute layup. It should take about, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, really. A little fuzz there. Let's drop this 3/4 ounce on here. Again, if you guys like this type of stuff, I go live here and there. Check out more stuff on the other stuff on the channel, the live streams. And if you subscribe, you'll get a notification for when I go live. And it certainly helps me out. YouTube recognizes that I'm doing something right. Or not. But, yeah. Anyway, your call. So I'm going to build this today. That stringer, we're going to glass that stringer in the first thing in the morning. We should be able to get this stuck in after I get the stringer glassed in. It's pretty small. I mean, that little stringer is tiny. It does have to go in exactly the right height, though. I've already fit this in. I'll show a picture later when I get a chance. I'll just throw a post up. I don't know if you guys can see like my posts. Sometimes I'll just post like a picture, no videos or nothing like that. I'm not sure how that gets found. I guess if you go to the channel, you can look for posts. But anyway, I'll show pictures of this already fit in there. We're going to soak this baby. Probably didn't make enough resin. I'm going to oversaturate this. Again, the whole point of priming, what was the point of priming? That COOSA absorbed some of the resin. So since we know that, we're going to make this really, 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 really soggy. And we know that first batch should be gelling right now. I kicked it pretty hot. So the primer should be setting up. It was already tacking. I don't know if we'll bust the scissors out on this and get them all sticky. Just let that material hang off. Just let it hang. Not that big a deal. Nice and resin rich. Resin rich, oversaturated. We'll drop our 1208 on. So this 1208, I don't know if I've done any videos showing the 1208. Maybe I did. I did do one bulkhead where I almost, that bulkhead did firm up on me. I did have the 1208 in that mixture at that time. I remember that. So I have shown it before, but it was a while ago. Anyway, this stuff it wets out really, really easy. This is the bottom side of the floor. I want it to be stiff and strong. I'm putting a stringer in there, and this is going to be entirely foam filled below there. So it's going to be solid. I'm a little weight conscious about making the boat too heavy. So I'm definitely being cautious here as far as keeping it somewhat nice and light, not overweight. So, but this stuff will stretch. Let's see if I can prove it. This stuff will stretch and get all bent out of shape. And so you got to be careful with the edges. Like that little wrinkle right there. I got lucky right there. I won't lie, that was luck. Got lucky. You got to be careful with that 1208 when you handle it, especially on the edges. I will show you real quick what I mean by that. I just cleaned my hands, acetone, but I'll show you what I mean. If you can see this, let me see, where are we in frame, where we're not. I'll show you. So this stuff right here, if you stretch this like this is off the part, so it doesn't matter. But if you're throwing it in and you get all whatever rough with it, and you start stretching stuff, that makes so much work trying to get that to go back out while you're working. So you just got to be a little bit tender with it. But you see how that almost went all the way through, that 1208? What a great product. Another thing that this is really, really good for, 1208, it's lighter than 1708. Oh, we just got resin all over us. Why do we wear these suits? It's lighter than 1708, but not much. It's only, what, 5 ounces lighter than 1708. But it goes around corners nicely. So if you're laying up like hatch frames or gutters or something with detail, anything that has a lot of detail that maybe 1708 is going to be a little bit stiff or challenging, you can bounce 1208 is friendly. Make shapes, make bends. Mainly like what I'm talking about, like gutters and stuff like that. Super friendly for stuff like that. But it doesn't consume a ton of resin. Wets out pretty easy. I haven't even hit it with a hard roller yet. We'll get on it with a hard roller here. We might have enough resin. Let's see how much squeezes out. I don't really need to trim this. Just let it hang. Like I say, tomorrow morning I'll jump on it with that diamond cutter and just cut that flap off. Check one more time for fit, and then I'll get that stringer stuck in the morning. And we'll glue this thing in as soon as that stringer allows me to. After I glue it in, the next thing we'll do is probably drop another 1208 on top. And then we'll foam fill. We'll see what day maybe we'll land on foam filling Fridays. I don't know. We're not going to wait. Whenever I get it ready to foam fill, we're going to foam fill it. But if it ends up being on Friday, then we'll have foam fill on Friday again. That'd be a coincidence. But I think we might be able to get it done by Thursday, maybe. We'll see. We'll see. Alright, what I'm going to do now, I keep throwing resin on me. Why are we doing that? Just trying to trash this suit. Okay, that's enough. Let's get our rollers out. Not throwing some resin on. What are we doing? I don't think I'm going to need a little roller today. Again, this should be pretty quick. Let's see, what time are we on? 33 minutes. I'm not sure exactly. Take the acetone out. Take the acetone out. I like to cover end to end when I'm doing this. End to end, like that. You don't do this. You just make little ripples doing that. I do that in corners. I'm sure you've seen me do that in corners because it works very well in corners. But on a big flat panel like this, nah, stretch them out. Go end to end. Then this will never be seen. Once this gets fiberglass in, it'll never be seen. This is a good practice. This is just good practice. I'm just showing you how it's done. End to end. There's my little choppy stuff. Yeah, I'll do it on the corners and stuff like that, because it works. Choppy, choppy, choppy. Not going to mess with those corners until we get the mat on it. The mat will hold these corners down for me. Sometimes I'll go like this. If I'm really trying to squeeze every ounce of resin out of here and make a super, super tight laminate, if I'm doing multiple layers and I need like extra super strength, high fiber content to resin, I'll squeeze this. I'll squeeze it. I'll work that resin out. But there's no puddles on top here. It's not slinging any on me, so it's not like it has too much. It's certainly not oversaturated. So with that said, we're probably going to need just a triple. We should have done 34 instead of 28 to finish. That's okay. Whoops. Whoops. All right. Let's drop that 20 or that 30, 3/4. The 3/4. That's what we want. Drop that 3/4 on here and finish it. So the point of doing this roll right here, this aggressive hard roll, is to see if there's any excess resin buried on that 3/4 ounce skin, that one we first dropped. There is no excess resin. This panel has exactly what it needs. Got no puddles in there. There's no air except for the little air on the corners there. We'll address that with that 3/4 ounce. We'll hold it down for us. We're not going to fool with it. We waste 10 minutes fighting with that, or about 30 seconds after the 3/4 ounce is on it. Looks good. Let's drop it. Let's finish it. Let's finish it. Which way is it going? This way? Is there 3/4 inch? Oh, so the folding thing. Boy, if you go on the internet, you hear some people talk about folding fiberglass and a bunch of crybabies. I sell fiberglass on Amazon. At one point, I was the #1 seller for fiberglass. I was killing it on Amazon. Things changed. Amazon changed the rules, allowed China to warehouse in the US. That ruined it, absolutely ruined it for me. So I don't really try to compete on there anymore. But when we talk about folded fiberglass, it does not damage the fibers. It doesn't damage it. It does not hurt the fiberglass. It's actually very hard to break the fibers. Very, very hard to break them. They're pretty tough stuff. If you try to like break some gun rubbing or tear gun rubbing, just try it. Get some gun rubbing, pull a strand of fiberglass out. If you get it, try and break it. Tell me how easy that is. It's not. Very hard to do. Very, very tough stuff. I can tell you that first batch did gel because the roller's a little lumpy right now. This roller's a bit lumpy. Got some lumps in it. Not the smoothest thing. But the point was is to get the gel on and get the laminate on all in one shot using one roller. That's efficient. So we kicked off that first batch nice and hot. We got it primed. We're getting our glass on. In what, 40 minutes? Where are we at? We're at 38. Pretty close. We do need a little more resin now. There's not enough resin to finish. So we're going to need some more. I can roll this for another 10 minutes. I'm not going to get any better. We need more resin. So let's do it. That's not going to wet out. So, stand by. Let's see real quick here. Should have done that 34 ounces. That was the plan. Should have stuck to the plan. I was guessing. So again, I've been using, I do this all the time, but I can mix this thing for an hour. If you clean it out really good, you can continue to mix multiple batches in here without having to stop and get a new bucket. It's just efficient. Clean it out while you're working. I don't have to go find new buckets. I don't fill a landfill full of buckets. This thing's been mixed like 30 times. All right. We're definitely not going to run out this time. Anyway, thanks for hanging out with me, y'all. As always, I do these lives because I don't have to edit them. So it's a win for me. You guys get to see every single step with no edits, so you don't miss anything. And I think that's kind of cool. I certainly hope that at the end of this build, there is a catalog of reference items, reference videos. Maybe I should do a little bit better job of organizing them. I will. I should do that. Into playlists and stuff. And I can absolutely do that. That's just sitting on the computer and playing with that. That's not a big deal. I'm certainly open to suggestions. One thing I'm pretty excited about is when we get to the finishing stage, you guys are going to learn a lot. There's a lot of stuff on YouTube that shows people doing fiberglass, and I've seen plenty of it. I don't agree with all of it, but I haven't seen a lot of people showing how to fare, or especially not how to efficiently put a finish on something the way I put a finish on something efficiently. So when I do get to that stage, I definitely encourage you guys to hang out for that and watch those. But we're not there yet. We're not going to stop and start finishing. There's an order to this stuff. We got to finish all the construction, get all the dirty stuff done before we get into the finishing process. We'll get to it. But yeah, you guys will definitely enjoy that part. That'll be a learning. That'll be some lessons in my catalog there. How to go from a raw fiberglass finish like this to a yacht finish in the fewest amount of steps that I know how to do. I'm not saying there's not other ways to do it. I've seen a million ways to do this stuff. I'm going to show you how I do it and what works for me. Pretty efficient, in my opinion. The reality is, going from raw fiberglass to a yacht finish, there's just time. It's just time. It's a refinement process, and just time and persistence, and you just got to do it. Someone's got to do it. Might have overmixed a little bit. We're going to give it another roll. There is absolutely no wind in this area right now. The AC is blowing cool air up in the boat. It was nice when I was up there fitting this. Very, very comfortable in there. But out here, I don't have any air conditioning. If anything, I have the heat from the exhaust of that thing, where there's no breeze moving across here. The reason I'm saying that is because you'll watch. This will not get tacky like you see sometimes in my live videos. You'll see the stuff get tacky on me. You'll see it try and lift up. It's not going to be a problem out here because there's no air moving. That ain't going to happen. Not right now. Shaking the acetone out. Got my tar paper floor down there. So if you're moving quickly like this, or you don't have air moving across your vinyl ester, 100% vinyl ester resin, then you won't have problems with it lifting up like it does, like you've seen in the boat. When it does, it start cursing. But it's worth it because having that air conditioning is just, there's no way I could laminate in that boat, do a 1 hour layup or a 2 hour layup without the air conditioning. It just wouldn't happen. Not possible. Not at 95 degrees or whatever it gets in here. So what I was talking about is once you put that 3/4 on here, it holds the 1208 down. There was a bubble that's just sitting there. It's just gone. It just disappears. The 3/4 holds it down. It's a great tool. I learned this. I was telling stories the other day in my last live. There's a fella, I don't really have permission to, I should ask him for permission if I could talk about, throw his name out there, but he was a neighbor of mine when I was in a warehouse that I leased. And he was my neighbor, and he was doing Not sure exactly what contracts. He did contract work for boat builders and all kinds of stuff. He was a fiberglass guy, fiberglass specialist. He'd build molds. He would contract him to build molds because he was pretty good at that. And I learned a lot from that guy. He was a good neighbor. One of the guys that he worked with as part of his crew, he'd come over and do some part-time work for me just for extra cash. And just working with him was I learned so much working from people that really take pride in doing this stuff. Beautiful fiberglass work. So I was lucky, fortunate to meet those guys, become good friends, and learn a lot. That's it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm showing you guys what I know. I've had some guys work for me in the past. It's hard to find people that want to come here and do this kind of work. If they know how to do it already, they're doing it for themselves and they're self-employed and they're doing their own thing. And I do have those friends too. But it's hard to find anyone who wants to do grunt work. The biggest problem is I have to deal with all their other BS. That was my biggest problem with having people work for me, was dealing with all their personal drama. It was not worth it. Not worth it to me. Rather work alone. That's it, guys. What do you think? We got a little extra resin here, so I'm going to hit this this little stringer. I'll show you again. Let's see here. I don't want resin on everything. Trying to find a spot to put this. My little stringer that I dropped on the ground over here. We'll just hit this again. Got a couple little pieces of dirt stuck to it from falling on the ground. I just hot glued some popsicle sticks to the bottom. So this will be primed for tomorrow. I'll hit this other side. I'll glue this in the morning. And sling some fiberglass on it. 1208, 1708, something like that. Real quick. And we'll get that floor bonded in. And that's going to be it for today. I hope you all learned something. I hope you enjoy it. I hope I somehow entertained y'all. And if you like it, like it. If you don't. If you do, share it with somebody who else might like it. And we'll do it again. Guys, we'll do it again. I appreciate you. Let's see. I like resin. You again, huh? I need to find this guy. Yep. We'll do it again. Pour the extra resin back in the bucket. Yeah, you got it, buddy. No, I'll throw it in my trash. I'll find something to cast. All right, take care, y'all. We'll do it again. Absolutely, promise. Take care. Next time.